What's poppin', everybody? Cerebral24. It was supposed to be a different video today, but as soon as I heard about the new banned Pokemon cards for the expanded format, I knew I wanted to talk about this today. So, before I get to talk about the new banned cards, some I agree, some I don't, I want to talk about banned Pokemon cards in general. So, even though the rotation system is great, and I take it any day over the fucked up ban list system Yu-Gi-Oh has, even the Pokemon Company, they make mistakes from time to time. And especially with expanded, when you're dealing with so many different sets and it keeps adding to that, there's going to be some interactions that become too fucked up. If you consider Black and White, it was when they started Yu-Gi-Ohing the game up. The Pokemon TCG became Yu-Gi-Oh! That's how I refer to it. Because, to my knowledge, 4th generation and in 3rd generation, there were no banned cards. And in the Wizards days, 2 cards were banned, and one of them was actually from a mistranslation, Slowking. So there hasn't really been many Pokemon cards that needed to be banned ever. It's mostly thanks to the expanded format and with the 5th and 6th generation kind of Yu-Gi-Ohing the game up with cards like Ultra Ball and with all these different cards being released that the focus is on setting up, but not necessarily to set up to play the game, but setting up to lock the opponent or setting up to basically be able to knock out everything and do everything turbo shit. Case in point, the Trevenant decks in Expanded and things like Zoroark GX. Playing the Skyfields, being ready by turn 1, they can like turn 2, can do over 200 damage, and they have all the flexibility with drawing cards, getting the necessary outs too, with the Puzzles of Time and shit, and with Zoroark GX's ability. So you have shit like this that happen. So even though X and Y, and especially Black and White sets are older, that doesn't necessarily mean they're power crept. Some cards just are immune to power creep. So this is why shit like this can happen. Okay, so the new first banned card is Archeops, and this one I don't agree with at all. They should have banned Maxi Sit and Ball Trick. Because Archeops is basically a stage 2 Pokemon. So it's already has a lot of things going for it to make it useless. And even worse than that is a fossil. This card never basically managed to do shit because of that. I mean, let alone being a stage 2 would have been hard. Being a fossil just makes it completely dead. But it was because of the Maxi card, Maxi Sit and Ball Trick in Primal Clash that this card managed to be good. Because the ability is good, not letting your opponent evolve and shit. But that's not the problem. The problem is getting this fucker turn 1 and shit. And getting him in immediately. And that's what Maxi does, and that's what Archie does, and this is the problem with Yu-Gi-Ohing the game up and what I mean. There shouldn't be cards that have this sort of broken effects that completely break the rules of the game. I mean, yeah, there's energy acceleration shit, but shit like this where you can instantly make locks and stuff, it's kind of too fucked up, if you ask me. So, even though they did ban Archeops, eventually there's going to be some other shit that maybe can replace it. So, this is why I feel like things like Maxi and Archie, they're cool cards, but I feel like those are the cards that should have been banned. Because even with Archie, if you really think about it, something like Blastoise, that Pokemon, the ability of course is great, but it's kind of balanced out being a stage 2 Pokemon with the slow ass rare candy. So that's the thing. In the older generations, in 4th gen for example, it was for Alligator, did almost the same shit. You could only attach water energies on water Pokemon, but it was basically the same shit. But because we didn't really have the attackers, because we didn't really have the supporters and shit, it wasn't all that. So abilities like that and effects like that are broken. So this is why there need to be some balance in some sort of way. So this is why having a card that you can instantly play that Pokemon in a play turn 1 without having to go to the hurdles and shit, is wrong. So Archeops, I can't say I agree. So the next new card is Ghetsis, and this one I really don't mind. If they want to ban it, if they want to keep it, it's fine. The problem I have with this, with the banning of Ghetsis, is if they're going to ban Ghetsis, they need to ban the red card too. Because what Ghetsis does is basically is hand rape. If you open with this on the first turn and play this, if your opponent's hand had a bunch of items, they get shuffled in, so you lose a bunch of cards from your hand, and your opponent gets to draw cards too. But the important thing is that the hand rape that happens, you lose a bunch of cards and you can basically start with fewer cards. Combined with something like Trevenant 2, it becomes even fucking worse. But like I've said, if they want to get rid of this hand rape card, okay, yeah, no skill, I understand that. If you're going to get rid of that, you have to get rid of a red card too. Because the red card, I'm pretty sure it's called red card, red button, whatever the hell it is. But you shuffle your hand into your deck and then you draw 4. So if you do this on the first turn, it's basically almost the same shit. You lose 3 cards from your hand. That's intense hand rape. So that sucks. So get rid of Getsus if you want to, alright. But they should have banned red card too. That's just my thoughts. Next card is the Hex Maniac. Sad that this really cool card has to go. The full art from the premium collection too. But I have to say that it's the right decision. It's another card that has a very broken effect that really shouldn't exist on a card. Ability lock is something really significant, and think Pokemon like Garbodor are strong enough with all the limitations, but at least they have limitations. That's the point. You have to get the stage 1 dude out, have to put a tool on, so if the tool gets removed, the ability kind of gets fucked. And once you block abilities, if you want to unblock them so that you can use them, it's more difficult. You need to use something like Field Blower, Tool Scrapper, and shit like that. And sometimes you don't have that flexibility. But Hex Maniac, what this does is it has this sort of strong, complete ability lock on the form of a supporter that anybody can play. And that's the thing. There's a lot of decks like Night March which are pretty fucked up the way they are. And the couple of weaknesses that those Pokemon have, things like Aegislash and Xurkitree, or Pokemon, let's say Safeguard Pokemon that are immune to GXs and EXs. Sometimes those are the weaknesses of decks like those, of decks that have those sort of weaknesses. And you kind of have to take the weakness. And what Hex Maniac does is it gives them an easy out when they're not supposed to have that. You want to do the Turbo Night March shit, only run DCs in your deck? Okay, cool. You're gonna get locked out against Pokemon like Xurkitree GX and Aegislash that don't take damage from Pokemon with special abilities. So that kind of shit. And when they have that easy Hex Maniac out, it becomes too unfair. So the problem is the card, if we're not going to talk about the decks. Such a strong effect on a supporter, and it shouldn't exist. So I'm behind that card. And then next up we got Puzzle of Time. A Puzzle of Time, I also agree with that card get banned. Yeah, you say you need to have 2 cards to get the broken effect off, but think about this. You have the 2 cards, do puzzles, you play them, and what do you get basically? A fusion of Dowsing Machine, Junk Arm, and Pokemon Stretcher, Pokemon Rescue in 1 card, basically. You can grab any 2 cards from your discard pile, any of them. Decks like Zoroark GX can really exploit that card. They really don't care. And at any time when you can have those 2 cards together and get the effect off, it shouldn't exist. It should have had more limitations. Things like VS Seeker, they're good, but they're very specific. You can get a supporter, and you don't get any card. Just a supporter, no item, no Pokemon. You just do that shit. And yeah, that card is of course good, but Puzzle of Time, it just creates a new level of brokenness, especially in decks like Zoroark GX. So it becomes too much. So I'm behind that card getting banned too. And then the last card, Wally. I don't agree with this card being banned. They mostly banned it basically for Trevenant, because you use this and you get the Trevenant lock on the first turn, no items. So I fucking hate that deck with a passion, and I haven't. It's been a long time since I used it, even before the break came out, during the Phantom Forces days when it was in standard, and I used it with fucking Chandelure from the same set too. But anyways, it's a cool deck. It's a strong deck, and I know they basically banned Wally for that, but that's not good because Wally, in and of itself, it's a fair card. And of course, there's going to be some interactions where the card gets more value, getting out the Trevenant to get the lock. So, there's that interaction. But I don't think it's that card that's really the problem. I mean, we didn't have a lot of the shit in Standard, and Trevenant was a good deck. The problem with Trevenant is that they released a bunch of cards that they shouldn't have released when they know that they already have the base Trevenant. So Trevenant didn't really need a fucking break that gives it more HP, a cheaper and better attack to use. So I feel like that's the problem. And in my opinion, even with Wally, Trevenant, you can play around that deck. It's not that. I mean, if they get lucky, get the lock, and then they get their luck with the crushing hammers and shit, and you don't see supporters, and you kind of get fucked, and they get lucky, then yeah, they win. But even with all the cards as they are in expanded, it's more of an annoyance deck, not really a good deck. It is a good deck, but it's not really the kind of deck that is always going to win. They have to kind of get lucky. So with Wally, I don't agree with that. I know they did it because of Trevenant. It was just everywhere. Pretty annoying. But I feel like, if anything, they should have just maybe banned something like Trevenant Break to kind of weaken the deck. But not do it like that where you don't let them get the lock, turn it 1 if they want to. If they see Wally and they want to use the supporter for that, I believe it's kind of fair. So, yeah. So Wally, no good. Archeops, no good. The rest, it makes sense to me. It's pretty fair. And I guess from what I understand is that they actually unban cards too. So for example, Shift Tree isn't banned anymore from what I understand. And that's a dumb thing. I mean, I guess that Pokemon is useless without Forest of Giant Plants. But, they probably should have kept it banned because it's some cheap, not really thought out written effect. And other cards like Lysander's Trump card, of course, it needs to stay banned. Forest of Giant Plants. It's sad, but I get it. But yeah, cards like that, like for example, Lysander's Trump card, it makes perfect sense for them to be banned for people that may be thinking that they should come back and shit. Because, like I've said with these other cards, cards that have insane effects that just can become too broken and have too much of a wide range effect and impact, they can end up becoming too good, especially in a format with expanded where you have so many sets and so many cards to contend with. In standard it wasn't so bad with some cards, but in expanded, it just becomes too fucked up. So these are the cards that got banned. I guess they unbanned some cards too. Some of the decisions I feel like they're dumb, but it just goes to show you that no matter what ban list system you have, not everybody's gonna agree with the shit. But yeah, I really feel like eventually Maxis and Baltrick and Archie are gonna get banned because other cards are gonna get released that get fucked like that, and it's unfair for the stage 2s and the Pokemon to get banned when they're not really the problem. Archeops is a fair card if you take out the Maxis and Baltrick that brings it out immediately. That's the busted thing. But anyway, so this is the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys subscribe, leave a like, share this with your friends. Cerebral94, what's up?